Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Checking In podcast. I am your host, who else but Tommy else, and today my guest is someone who is not only someone who's had a huge influence on my professional wrestling career, but also is someone I am lucky enough to call a good friend. His name is Bryce Benjamin, also known in some circles as Jesus Bryce, one half of the N words, and leader of his own cult in the pro wrestling world. He's somebody I love dearly, and he's been a great friend to me. I have had a myriad of trainers in the time that I've been a part of pro wrestling, but he is, in no disrespect to anybody I've trained with before, he has been the one who I feel like I have really learned the most from to help me understand psychology and just your basic, you know, drills, things like that. My professional wrestling training was very fair. It was fairly limited, so um, I can only speak so much about it. But in the grand scope of that, he was a huge influence on me, and I am very, very grateful to call him a friend now. In the aftermath of all of that, having clonked heads with him many times by my own mistakes, by not knowing when to leapfrog when I should and duck when I should. And so he and I have physically bumped heads many, many times. Fortunately, it has not affected his intellect, and he has a lot of great opinions and thoughts on a whole myriad of topics in life. He and I run a podcast when we have the time called Losing Friends because it's a show about conspiracy theory, and more often than not, that leads to us losing friends because we believe in certain things that other people don't. And but I wanted to bring him on this show because he is someone who's being affected very closely by the COVID-19 coronavirus and the pandemic and the isolation and the whole damn thing, the quarantine, everything. His livelihood is wrestling in one facet or another. He not only performs as a wrestler, and a fairly popular one, especially in the freelance wrestling organization, but he is also a trainer and someone who I like when people come to me and they say, I want to be a professional wrestler, who can I talk to about training? That's where I send them. Now, he doesn't teach beginner classes. He's kind of in the intermediate level, uh, but even still, I'll send them to him. He'll know where to get somebody started, and then work their way up to where he is as the actual training and stuff like that. But uh, the school that they've got running out of freelance, in my opinion, is the best place you can possibly go right now if you want to learn how to be a professional wrestler, and he's part of that machine. Um, but given the virus, given the circumstances, the social distancing, and what have you, it makes not only wrestling events damn near impossible to put on right now, but even just doing practice is tough because you're talking about 10 plus people who are going to be in extremely close contact with one another, sweating on each other, touching each other, um, and so on and so forth. So I wanted to get him on and find out how is this affecting him? How is this affecting the business? Where does he see it going from here? And so on and so forth. So without further ado, one of my favorite people in the entire world, Mr. Bryce Benjamin. Ladies and gentlemen, I am sitting here with Jesus Bryce, otherwise known as Bryce Benjamin, one sexy mofo. and I am honored and privileged to have him here on the Checking In podcast as I am checking in with some of my favorite people during this pandemic situation. And there have been few who have been outspoken as much as my good friend Bryce here. Jesus, Bryce, welcome to the show. How you doing, bro?
I'm good. I'm good. Just bored as shit. Yeah.
Yeah. So, first off, uh, just general check-in. How are you doing? Is your mother doing? How is your son doing? How is your family and friends doing out there during all of
um,
this?
uh, Doing all right. I mean, it gets hard. Anxiety kicks in every now and then, and then you got like just being depressed from not doing anything, not being active, not working to say. So, yeah. But other than that, everything's good. Just the normal shit. Money's
Everybody,
getting low.
everybody's healthy.
Facebook's getting flooded. Yeah, everybody's healthy. Just having my son. It's like this past weekend, and he's fine. We're happy to see each other because like, for the longest time we didn't see each other for like almost 2.5, 3 months, just
Oh
because of
wow, that
the thing.
sucks.
Just trying to. Well, I don't want to freak his mom out, and like they're over there, they got a house full of people, so we were
Sure.
just kind of playing it safe, kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, it sucked not seeing him for so long, as long as we've ever been apart since he's been born, yeah. So it was
Wow.
rough, but now everything's fucking cool. He's coming over
Yeah.
on regular basis now, so we're good. Yeah.
Good, good. I'm glad to hear, man. So, okay, so let's give everybody first kind of a background on who you are and what you do. Okay, so you are a professional wrestler, but
Mm-hmm.
you are also a trainer. Okay,
Yeah.
so how has the pandemic and its restrictions affected you from a income level between actually performing shows and training other wrestlers?
It put my income situation at a complete standstill, like at a halt. So whatever money I had gotten or made up until this started, that's all I had to kind of help me out, which isn't a lot. I'm not a guy who's all about money, so I don't have like this big stacked bank savings account and whatever.
But every dollar counts, man. Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, I mean,
yeah,
that's how I make my money. Yeah, the
yeah.
training and the wrestling is how I make my money. This is what I do for a living. So it put all that on halt. So it's been a little frustrating, just trying to figure out, stretching every penny and trying to figure out when this is going to be over. When can I get back to work to start making money again and stuff like that. So yeah, it is what it is. Yeah.
How do you feel it's impacting the students who like started training, or I mean, you deal with more intermediate level talent who are working on training and everything, but even still, to be out of the ring from and out of training for so long, how do you feel that affects them?
I don't really know. I guess it can affect everybody differently. I know they're all mostly antsy to get back in there. They miss it and like dreading that first bump when we come back. But yeah, like I hope everybody's doing okay. I gotta probably check in everyone. We have a little group going, and they all still comment about working out. So I think they're doing okay. But yeah, I'm sure they miss it just as much as everybody else. Like for me, to be honest, like I don't necessarily miss the wrestling, like the shows part as much as I thought I would. This is my first break from all of that from that part in 17 years. Like outside of being injured and being out for a few months here and there, like I
Sure.
haven't had a break from wrestling. So my body is loving it, but
Right.
everything else kind of like, got to get back in
I
there.
know. I kind of feel the same way because I feel a little bit guilty too because like I feel like I've been like working nonstop since 2005 and have had no break at all. And even though I'm still being able to work online and train some of my clients online, I still feel like this incredible release where
Yeah,
where I'm just like, oh my God, like I just like I could feel my body like loosening up. Like I just feel like, and I feel bad. I feel guilty because it's like,
yeah,
that there's some people out there just absolutely dying during all of this stuff. And
yeah,
I hate to be, feeling like I'm prospering during this situation. It's like now I kind of understand like people who live out like in DeKalb and who live out in like far away kind of more isolated areas. I feel like I understand why they do that, because I could get used to this life where there's like nobody around and there's not a whole lot going
I
on.
mean, but I wanted to be under my own volition. You know, like I want to be my own choice of nobody being around.
Sure. Yeah. You don't want to
Because
feel
like
like it's forced upon you. No, of
yeah,
course.
like we're still very social creatures, so we want to be able to interact with
Yeah.
people if we
I do. Well, even I still want to know that, like, even if it's a 45-minute drive, I can get my ass out to something where there's something happening and see some
yeah.
vehicles. Yeah, I
But
mean,
just it's like just seeing nobody, everybody's afraid to get close to each other. It's like it's been driving me nuts. Yeah.
so you would. So it's safe to say that this has had a hard economical impact on you so
Yeah.
far.
I mean,
Okay.
but I've been there before, and I say I'm not a person of money, so it's never been like a big prominent role in my life. So I mean, I'm okay. I can get by without, yeah, for a
Right.
certain amount of time. Yeah.
Um, I mean, and before we go any further, because I will get into more serious topics as we move forward. But before we go one step forward, I have to publicly address the fact that you are sitting in front of an entire wall of Funko Pops that I am just blown away by. I have
Yeah.
heard I have heard tale of this collection.
Hmm.
I have never seen it in person, and I know
Yeah.
I'm only seeing a fraction of it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Like a
but
small amount.
the fact that you can have an entire wall of pops behind you is enough for me to tip
And
my hat, give
it
you
goes all the way up too.
the Briscoe roll. I mean, just
Yeah.
very
Thank you.
cool.
A lot
Okay,
of money
so
spent. Where people probably like, yeah, I bet he wish he didn't spend that money now, huh?
yeah. Well, I don't know.
Nah, fuck
Take
that.
a
That's what I do.
look at your pop app and see what you're worth right now. You
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
know. You know,
Yeah. I can make a few sales, but yeah. No,
sure.
what's the point of having money if you can't spend it, right?
Yeah. So okay. So I mean, generally, I like to spend these shows kind of talking to the person about like their own personal trials and tribulations. But I feel like we've kind of gotten that in a nutshell from what we've already talked about here. So what I would like to talk about more is that you have been someone who has been very vocal
Mhm.
online about your feelings about how this entire thing has been handled. Okay. So let me just kind of prompt you with a couple of questions and kind of get your take on some things. Okay.
Okay.
So let me ask you, what do you feel? How do you feel this situation has been handled on a state level from Illinois?
Um, like there's no right answer. Like that I know. Like there's no playbook to be like this is exactly what you do when shit hits the fan. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying that it hasn't been handled well because it could have been done any better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's of like it's some parts I get and some parts I don't get at all. So it's kind of like I'm like in the middle when it comes to how I feel like has it been handled right, has it been handled wrong. I'm kind of in the middle. Like I think it's a little bit from both. Some things have
Okay.
been right, some things have been very wrong,
Okay.
and I
Well,
honestly think the majority of it
so
has been wrong.
give me one example of each. Give me one example of something that's been done right, and give me one example of something that's been done wrong. Just
All
one
right,
of each.
well, the thing that's been done right, if there is a pandemic, there's some deadly virus going around. Yeah, okay, let's try to stop that from spreading. So that's been done right. I can get on board with the idea of like, all right, people need to kind of stay with each other for a while. Let's get a handle on this thing. Let's find out what this thing is, find out what to do about it, and then move forward.
Mhm.
And what things I feel has been handled wrong is we did all that, and then there's been no moving forward.
Right.
It's like we flattened the curve. We did what they said. We did first it was a month of stay in place or whatever, shelter at home. Things are very limited, all limited our movements. People weren't going to work, no school, all this stuff like that. And that was supposed to be to slow down the spread, not to eliminate it, to slow it down, so that the hospitals can be ready and all stuff like that.
And that's an important point because a lot of people, I think, do think that the point of this is to eliminate it.
Yeah,
And
and it was never to
there's
eliminate.
there's no way you can't eliminate anything. You can't eliminate the
Exactly.
common cold. So
Yeah,
I mean, like that's not the point. The point was to contain it to a reasonable level that we could handle it and deal with it and live in regular society again.
right.
That at least that was my understanding of it. At least,
That's what flatten the curve is. That's what it's always been. That's what they do with any kind of outbreak. You try to get ahead of it as far as being able to handle it, not get ahead of it to eradicate it, because we haven't eradicated anything in what 200 years.
right?
Like it took them 200 years to cure polio.
Everything's still around to some end or another. Yeah.
Yeah. So we don't cure anything. We prepare for it so we can adapt,
Right.
because our bodies do that. Our bodies adapt.
And I think that's one thing because they talk about how they're saying how they don't see like a vaccine or cure to it or whatever for possibly up to another 2 years, and I think that scares the hell out of people. But at the same time, the point isn't necessarily that we're going to just eradicate this whole thing. It's to get it under control, and
Yeah.
then if we eventually get to the point where we can have something that does just wipe it out, well, that's obviously the optimal
Yeah.
goal. But
Well, I
I
don't
mean,
think it ever
it's
will be. Yeah.
but that's got to take it. You got to. I'm sorry, it's just going to take some time. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, there's going to be people who suffer from it.
Yeah.
But I may be one of them. I have no idea. None of us do. But I mean,
We never know. I mean, every day is a what if. That's what I've been saying a lot to people. Every day is always a what if. This isn't any different than anything else we've ever faced. It's not even the most deadliest thing we've faced, but people have this fear in their head, and a lot of that came from the media in the very beginning, where it was right away, it was just the most god awful situation. It was the worst case scenario. That's all they ever reported. There was
sure.
never other side to it of, but also it could go this way. They never talk about that. They never talked about it. They still don't talk about it. It was high death numbers predicted. It was this many infections predicted, but none of those things happened. It didn't
Yeah.
go anywhere near the way they predicted it. We have information now on the virus itself, as they've done studies and tests to it. So there's more information out now, but people are still paralyzed by the initial fear.
So
They're ignoring the information. Go ahead.
let me ask you this: do you think that they may have overinflated those numbers in the beginning just so that people would feel relieved when they see that they were not as big as they were initially predicted?
No, I think they did it for their own
You
bullshit
think
and
they were
greed.
legit? You think they were
No, no,
legit?
no, no, no. I think they inflated the numbers for sure. I don't think their reasoning was to later on reveal that they weren't that high. I think they inflate the numbers because they wanted this to be very bad. Like, I
Okay.
mean, people don't want to admit it to
But
themselves,
they,
but this
yet,
has become
yet they still played the card that when the numbers weren't as bad, they played that card to say, hey, look, we ended up, like giving themselves credit in that way, in that
well,
way.
yeah. They give you the whole, oh, it's because of the shelter in place.
So for
Yeah,
them, it's a win-win either way, basically.
yeah. They set themselves up to look good regardless.
Mm,
But but also they expect people to just simply forget about past things that they said weeks prior, which people do. Like, it fucking works. There's so many
right.
people who just completely ignore what was said, and then what happened, and then what changed, and how they're saying this and pretend like this is what they said all along. And it's like, well, no, they were saying a completely different thing a week ago. Yeah.
Right.
And so it gets frustrating when it comes to that, because there's no fucking straight answers, because they're all, it's, I say, it became a political thing. And that's the part that pissed me off about the whole thing.
Well, and that's one thing. So I have a client of mine. His name's Charlie Brown. And I know he doesn't mind me mentioning his name because he actually runs a show every Thursday night on Face or on YouTube now. He's an investment portfolio manager, but so he's looking at this thing through different eyes than a lot of us do. But he himself has made mention many times that this will ultimately be one of the biggest political situations that we've dealt with in possibly 100 years, because the political implications of this whole thing are going to be absolutely astronomical.
Yeah.
It's like, never mind the virus, never mind the economical standpoint, the political standpoints on both sides. are just going to have such an impact on this that it's just like unprecedented, like nothing since World War II, basically. So let me ask you this. Okay, so I asked you what you thought about the things on the state level. How do you think things are being handled on the federal level?
I think it got handled well, considerably. If you want to look at what could have been and what they predicted it to be,
Yeah,
well, if you look at the numbers, well, then fuck, we crushed it. You know what I mean? We did
yeah.
a great job. What more could you have done? I mean, people are now asking for the impossible. Oh, well, should have done something sooner. Okay, but we didn't. You know what I mean? Like that time's gone. Look at what we have now. It ain't as bad as what it could have been. So
And that's
it's
all
time.
subject, and that's really all subject to opinion. I mean, it's like I'm not trying to defend one side or over the other, but I mean, it's like, how do I know what, like people knew at what point in time and things like that?
Right,
All I know is what they ended up telling me.
right.
I don't know if that's the truth. I don't know. I can only go off of that. But if you're going off of that starting point, within 2 to 3 months they really like did jump on top of things. There were things
Yeah,
put in place.
they're going by their narrative starting point. We knew about this in January, and by the end of January, they started already doing travel bans, stuff like that. So I'm like, then we were on top of it then by their own time frame. Yeah.
Right, right.
So if what they're saying is true about when people knew about it, I mean, I think we can all safely say that people definitely knew about it before they're saying they did. Yeah.
So here's one thought is that let's say that they did know about it in say September, October of last year. What would there have been to be gained by them letting it run its course all the way till January?
Exactly. Now, I mean, I'm not saying that this is what's going on, but it seems a little convenient that it is so close to the election now. And
Okay,
now you have
okay.
all this shit happening where it's now being used as a tool to sway the election. Like, I mean, I don't care what anyone says. You can't deny, okay, Democrats are now playing into this thing real bad to be like, look what Trump did. Look, all these people died because of him. If he started sooner and blah, 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 also like that, and all their ads like that, they're trying to play off people's emotions to get votes. And then the Republicans are going to do the same thing. They're going to be like, nah, fuck them. We were on top of this shit. Look at how awesome we did for this, trying to sway votes. So it's a
Okay,
little convenient on how close it is to the election that
all
this
right.
all of a sudden people didn't know anything until later. You know what I mean?
No, I hear what you're saying. So by that point though, if okay, so if let's say the Democrats knew about what was going on in say September, October last year, and they were just biding their time, no pun
Mhm.
intended, until they got to this point. I mean, wouldn't you imagine that like Trump and his crew would have already known about it as well? Wouldn't it have been in their best interest to jump on top of this back then rather than wait till January?
Well, if they did know, I say again, we don't have any information. We only get what's available to us through them and what little research we can do.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah.
China themselves, like the Chinese government covered it up. So as far as we know, our people didn't know because they weren't being told. Uh, the WHO wasn't being told. Well, there's a whole thing about the WHO maybe being knowing about it and just not saying anything because they side with China. But what the fuck ever, I don't know. But like, but we do know here now officially, at least that's what's being reported, is that the Chinese government covered this up for a longer time and
Okay.
didn't tell anyone in the world.
But why would the Democrats know about it and not Trump and
No, no,
his
no,
crew?
no, no. I'm saying they didn't know about it then. So I'm
Okay.
saying the likelihood is that our government didn't know what was coming because they weren't getting the right information. The information we
Okay.
did get from China was it turned out to be false. You know.
So do you believe that the WHO is more or less bullshit?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Because I mean
That's
they've kind of proven themselves to be time and time again. Yeah.
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 A lot of people I've talked to have found that they are bullshit and that they are self-serving. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I honestly, personally, I honestly don't know enough about it to have an opinion on it. All I can speak to is what I've heard personally from talking to other people, and I see more people leaning towards the idea that the WHO is something that's run
Mhm.
ultimately by China,
Yeah,
and they are influencing all of the information that's coming out of that, and so they are an unreliable source.
yeah.
That's
And and
that's
that's basically what it boils down. That's how I view them. I'm like, their sources is unreliable. I
yeah,
can't take anything that they say and be like, all right, well, that's the truth. You know, as far as this is concerned, I'm like, they've proven themselves to be unreliable sources. Yeah.
yeah.
Like
Okay.
I've seen their interviews with my own eyes. I've read their through their stuff on their pages. I've seen inconsistencies where I'm like, all right, you're no longer credible. Yeah.
So okay, so let me talk to you a little bit about like just general posts of yours on Facebook right now.
Right.
Um, let you know like give me like what is your biggest gripe right now? I mean, like what's your biggest frustration with the current situation right now?
Um, the denial, funny, of science, of the science, denial of reality, denial of our biology. You know, all of a sudden now everyone is acting like we aren't that we've never faced this threat and that we've never been in this situation and that now all the science that we've been going through for our lives, I mean actual science, like our biological makeup, our the way our bodies work, we're just denying all of that now in place of fear of bullshit, shit that hasn't proven itself. Yeah.
So okay, so let's just to kind of narrow things, into down a little bit. I've seen you post a lot about the whole face mask situation. So talk to me about that. What are your feelings on the face mask situation right now?
Well, the medical people and the CDC have all put it, and even the products themselves tell you these masks won't serve you any medical purpose. They won't save you from this because the fibers won't stop something as small as the virus cells themselves or whatever, however the fuck it's put. You know what I mean?
Right.
Basically, the masks are pointless, and that's my whole thing with the mask is, and the way people are acting about it. The people who are on the side of wearing the mask, which again, I'm fine with. You want to wear a mask, wear a mask. But now it's becoming us versus them thing now because it's like, well, I don't want to wear a mask because I don't need to wear a mask because I'm not sick.
Sure.
And then you want me to wear one because because you believe that this is going to help.
Did
But
you,
go ahead.
not to interrupt, but did you ever read a Dr. Seuss book called The Sneetches?
No.
Okay, so The Sneetches is one of my favorite books. And what it is it's these weird, I mean, Dr. Seuss looking creatures, these big, tall, like almost um, big bird looking creatures. And half of the Sneetches had a blue star on their stomach, and the other half didn't have any. And so this guy comes to town with a machine that can change the guys who have the blue stars on their stomachs to having none, and vice versa. And these two ultimately end up like this guy makes like a ton of money on both sides of the whole thing because they all want to be like the other person, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So the point of it is that I I wasn't wearing the mask until they absolutely made it legally mandatory. And when I was in stores, I just got dirty looks from everybody.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I had like the full blown, medical grade masks and everything and everything. So when I needed them, I had them, which was good. But at the same time, like if you weren't wearing them, I mean, like the looks that you got from people was just
Yeah.
like, you
I
asshole.
mean,
And I was just like,
and I've seen videos now of like people in masks ganging up on people who don't have masks and yelling at them and like basically fucking forcing them out the store. Which the
well,
person's in the store,
it was like
which
that great Seinfeld clip that was on the other day that we put online where he wasn't wearing the ribbon
oh
for
yeah, and like well, you're not wearing the ribbon, yeah, yeah,
and it's like, why
yeah,
aren't you wearing the ribbon? I mean,
and
it was
that's what
kind
it
of the
is
same
now.
thing. But I mean,
Yep.
here's the thing. So, okay, so number one, I see people who are wearing masks, but they keep it below their nose. Okay, so which completely defeats the purpose of the whole thing. Number two, most medical people I've talked to who are deep in the trenches who are working in nursing homes and so on and so forth, they wear them, but I mean, they're saying they're like they only do so much, you know.
Yeah.
And so now this last weekend was Memorial Day, and it was the first time I actually went and saw my mother physically for probably about 3 months since this whole thing went down. But we kind of said, screw it. We'll just, go over there, and I'm not wearing a mask or anything like that. There's no way. And she had set the table so that we were like 6 feet apart and everything. So we had some dinner and we talked and whatever. But by the time we got into the kitchen and we were doing the dishes, we were rubbing up against each other left and right.
Yeah.
So like there's just no way to really keep like that kind of discipline. You just don't think about it. You're
Yeah.
so used to
Well,
living a
you're
certain
not
way.
designed to.
So even after all the precautions we had taken going into the whole thing, by the end of the whole night, we realized, oh, we touched each other like a million times. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like, you know, and you know what? As far as I know, she's fine. I know I'm doing okay, but I mean, it's just like it's a really hard thing to try to physically maintain, and there's people out there
It's
now.
unnatural.
Go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
I'll say it's a hard thing to do because it's unnatural. It goes against all of your basic instincts, your survival instincts. That's why we are a society, because we herd.
All
Like
right.
that's what we do. So it's not normal to just be like, all right, well, I'm gonna stay away from everybody and just be okay. Like it's impossible, not impossible, but it's very unlikely.
Yeah.
And you
It's hard
start
to
to,
not it's hard to not want to shake hands or give a hug to somebody, I mean,
yeah,
like it really does feel unnatural to not make a human connection like that, a
yeah,
physical
yeah,
human connection, you know.
yeah.
It's
And
why.
like I said, I get it. I understand. I'm not saying if you truly believe this is a factor and something that could affect your life to take precaution. I'm not saying don't take any precautions at all. But at what point does all the precautions and the over sanitation and stuff like that and the isolation, at what point does it become counterproductive? At what point are you doing more harm to yourself than you are any good for yourself? Because
So
we've been say humans have been around for a long time. We've faced viruses before, and the only way we get through it is through exposure. That's why we still around and
that's
survive with
right. Yeah.
viruses.
The only
It's
way you
because
build
we're
the,
exposed
the
to
only
it.
way you build up antibodies is by having to fight the virus itself.
Yeah, and it's
I
been
mean,
the case since forever, and now all of a sudden people are just denying that fact and going off of, oh no, it's gonna kill grandma. You don't care about grandma, and it's like, no, that's not the case at all. I do care about grandma, but
yeah, of course you
but
do.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's life. We've always faced this threat. If the news didn't tell us about this, I don't think anybody would give a shit. I don't think it would be a thing at all. Nobody would know the difference between the deaths from this year and the deaths from last year. No one
Right.
would know, to be honest. And I'm not saying that to
Right.
be cold, be hard, and say I don't care about people dying, because I
No,
do,
I
but
agree
there's
with you,
nothing
man.
we can do about it. That's life. That is the way of life. We're
Well,
born, we die.
I thought about that. I was like, honestly, if I hadn't heard about this through the news or through other people or anything like that,
Mhm.
I wouldn't even know this was happening right now.
Yep.
You know,
Nobody would know.
I would be wondering why the hell there's nobody out right now. But I mean, that's that aside, I'd be fine. I'd be just be like, well, whatever. You
Yeah.
know, and the only thing that has changed really is the fact that I'm now working from home more than going out to my clients' places,
Yeah.
and I do prefer being there in person because, as you know, as a trainer, it's like yeah, sure. Could you go on a webcam and tell your students what to do
Mhm.
in the ring? I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
It will never substitute you being there in person and being able to see
Like, hands
all the
on.
just the tiny nuances of what's going on and what they need to fix and things like that. It's like I can't do that either just through a webcam in the 2D format.
Right.
And some of my clients have thought, well, hey, why don't we just do this from now on? This seems great. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's not that simple. I mean, for me as a trainer, I really need to be there in person to see that 3D aspect of what's going on. And I know that
Right.
you can do the same. Yeah, and I
Right. I
don't
mean,
I don't think you feel comfortable doing the same training people to be wrestlers through a friggin' webcam. I
right.
mean,
It's
it's
like, all right, here you go. You're welcome. Yeah, you've passed.
right. you
Now
know,
get out there and do this thing you haven't done with a real person now.
right, sure.
Yeah.
So, okay, so the masks are one thing. And so let me ask you this, being someone who is anxious to get back to work, uh, do you feel that the situation is leveled off enough right now that you should be able to get back to work, or do you think that it does need more time?
No, I absolutely believe that it's situations at a point now where we can get back to work. I believe we could have never stopped working because,
Yeah.
like I said, the flu we've been dealing with for decades, and we have flu season every year. With that didn't stop anybody from doing anything, living their lives, not even thinking about it. While hundreds of thousands of people a year lost their lives to influenza every year. So I'm
Yeah.
like, it's not. This isn't anything new. Like it's got a new name. It's a new virus, but I'm like, it's the same pattern of life. Like, yeah, there's always something trying to take us out. There's always something trying to kill us. Well, not even kill. It lives. Like it's a virus. It's living. And it does what it does in its life, and we have our lives, and our world sometimes slam together, and we see what happens. Maybe they win, maybe we win, but our bodies adapt, and we're not letting ourselves do that. So I'm like, in all honesty, we're making it, well, not we are, but like the situation is kind of, I think, making it more likely to have more infection, more people die from it because people are less healthy now from the isolation, from the not doing anything, from not being exposed to healthy bacteria and stuff like that. So
Well,
I think
that's
that
I,
less
I
up.
I can attest to that because that's what my whole job is right now, is trying to keep people moving and
Right.
doing something
Yeah.
while they're in this isolation. I mean, because there's people who won't even leave their homes to go for a walk.
Right.
So if they do nothing else, they're at least online with me and working out and stuff.
Right.
It's like, and
And
it's
that's
not. I
it's
mean,
about
it's like
fear.
45. It's 45 minutes, maybe 2, 3 days a week, but at least it's something.
Yeah.
But to your point, I mean, it's not helping those other. I mean, there's not very many people who are doing that sort of thing, and all those poor people are withering away because they're more inactive than ever.
Yeah.
Their
And
dietary
even
habits
mentally.
and mental habits absolutely
Yeah.
are withering away. So let me tell you about this real quick and see what you think about this. So the gym that I work out at is called Brick House Gym. It's in Wheaton, Illinois. And the guy who owns it is a guy named Brandon. And he got that thing started probably about 3, 4 years ago. And it has become a destination gym for people who are into bodybuilding, fitness competing, things like that. They literally have a room in the place that's lit for stage performance. So, like,
Right.
if you're going to
Yeah.
practice your poses and things like that, you can go into this room and be under the right lighting and things like that. It's been a huge success. It's had a lot of momentum. It's been going great. Bang, this pandemic hits and this place starts going down the tubes because obviously they can't have anybody over there, and they have rent to pay and all this insurance and all the other stuff to pay, and it's just absolutely draining them. So about 3 weeks ago he just said, fuck it, I don't give a shit what the city says, I'm opening this place and I'm bringing people in, not only for the sake of the gym but because there are people who have mental reliability on this place.
Yeah.
They need to be in those four walls. They need to have that clubhouse. They need to have that place where they can go to and feel better about themselves and have that mental stability and everything like that. And it was on the news and it was in the media, and at the end of the day, nobody bothered shutting him down. He could have lost his business license. He could have lost his business altogether.
Yeah.
And he took that step and he made that jump and he did that. And it has paid off. They are still open to this day and they are still kicking ass. What do you think about that?
No, and I think that's great, and that's where my anger came in a lot of time when it started to really get separated in society, where it became us versus them, the people who are like pro shutdown, pro like the mask, all that stuff, and everybody saying the stupid shit of being like, oh, you guys are protesting, complaining because you can't go get a haircut and blah blah blah, all stuff like that. I'm like, you people pretend to care about people, about about all of us, about our lives and the survival of us. But everything that you're saying is completely excluding all the people that this thing doesn't work for.
Right.
Like, because I'll say everybody wants to pretend like we're all in the same boat, and it's like, no, we all know we aren't. I'm like, yeah, it's easy for someone to stay at home who got the stimulus check, who's getting the unemployment, and they're making more money now than they were when they were actually working. Yeah, it's real easy for you to
I'm
be.
getting none of, by the way.
Yeah, well, yeah,
So
it means I'm
yeah,
getting none of
I
it.
don't get a stimulus
So,
check. I don't get any
yeah,
unemployment.
yeah,
I don't get any of that stuff.
yeah.
I'm still running off my own income right now.
Yeah. So I'm like, it was real easy for all the people getting all those things to sit back and be like, oh yeah, that's just, just hold on till it's safe, ride it out a little bit longer. But I'm like, okay, you're ignoring the millions, not just a few thousand, like 26 million Americans almost seemingly overnight lost their jobs. Not got, furloughed for a little bit, not temporarily off. Like, no, their places of business couldn't survive this thing and they shut down. They have no job to go back to. You know, they aren't getting stimulus checks, or the unemployment website keeps crashing. So there's a bunch of people suffering in a bunch of different ways over this whole thing. And it's like, yeah, but fuck them because I'm doing okay. And that became what really starts to piss me off in society, is that whole
Well,
thing of like,
and that's where my guilt comes from, because because I am one of the lucky people who are able to work from home and somehow continue doing my business on my own. But like, I am aware
mm-hmm.
very wholeheartedly of all of the people who are not in such a fortunate situation. And it's like, so on one end, it's like, hey, I'm like, God, this is great. This is like a vacation. I haven't been able to relax as much in forever. I go for a walk every day. I train a few clients online, play some video games, I make food. It's like I'm doing okay. But there's other people who are just like, they don't know how they're going to pay their rent. They don't know how
Yep.
they're going to pay their utilities. They don't know where they're going to get their food. I mean, they're on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, and I am very, very aware of them.
Yeah.
And
But
that
there's
is
so
where,
many people
that is where I just feel like so guilty, and I feel so bad that I can't enjoy the time that I have
absolutely
myself right now.
absolutely can, because there's nothing to feel guilty about, because you aren't pushing for them to not be allowed to do anything. Like, I got into the argument with somebody on
No, I
Facebook.
wish them nothing but the best. I hope that,
Yeah,
God, for the love of
yeah,
God, I hope they could get
yeah,
man.
and that's been my whole argument, my whole frustration. I'm like, if you guys listen to anything that the people who are against the lockdown saying, nowhere in any of my rants am I telling anybody who is locked down or who wants to wear a mask and all stuff. Nowhere am I telling you not to do any of those things. I'm saying, yeah, if you choose to do that, you do that. But let me choose to do what I need to do for my life.
Right.
So I'm like, but you're literally petitioning for something that's not allowing me to live my life.
Right.
I'm like, how is this you caring about people's lives? How is this you being caring? Like, no, I'm more caring than you are, because my whole thing is, you do what you need to do and let me do what I need to do.
And
Like,
the other
what
thing is,
like, essential for me, not essential? Who decides what's essential for
right.
someone else's life? Like that. None of these things made any sense, and that's why I'm saying, like, there's a lot of bullshit with this, because like so many things don't add up. Like, from what you're telling me to do, is happening, to what you guys are actually doing to help it, don't make any sense. They don't add up together at all.
And just like when I was over at my mother's house and we couldn't help it, like, brush up against each other, or get within 6 feet of each other, for God's sakes. When I go to the grocery store, I don't think there's ever one time I've ever been there where I didn't come within, like 6 inches of somebody. I mean, it's like,
Same aisle, or
they
just
they
crowded.
put
Yeah.
the things on the lanes that say, like, go this way only, and things like that.
Yeah.
I never see it until I'm walking out the other end of
Yeah.
the aisle, where it
Yeah.
says that you're going the wrong way. It's like,
Yeah.
it's already too late.
But is there a wrong way? Like, I mean, I'm not gonna just sit there and block someone if they're coming. Like, is there a wrong way?
I'm like, this is like driving in Chicago. I'm like, I don't even know. It's like, it's something about one-way streets. It's like, I don't even know.
I want to get my chips, bro.
but it just seems like nobody's paying attention to this stuff, and you
because
know,
it's foolish. It
I
is
I
extremely
I just feel like I don't know. I mean, here, like, so here's the question: is it foolish to be over precautious, or is it foolish to be not as precautious as you might be otherwise? I mean, is it better to be oversensitive to the issue just for the sake to be on the safe side, or do you think that there is a point where we can go too far with it, and that's kind of where we're at now?
Well, yeah, no. I don't think we're too far at anything. There's always an extreme to both ends. You can be foolish and over preparing. You can be foolish and under preparing. You can always go extreme on both ends. And I don't think we're at any extreme. I think that the argument is happening in the middle because me personally and people that I know who want to go back to work, who want their lives to go back to normal, are saying, yeah, I'm not saying, hey, fuck it, let's just spit in each other's mouths when we go outside, or let's fucking, cough in strangers' faces. I'm like, these are all things we didn't do in the beginning. You know what I mean? Like before
Right.
all this, like be clean, wash your fucking hands, don't be filthy. Like no one is saying not to do these things. And we're saying be aware and take precautions if you feel you need to take precautions. If you feel you need to wear a mask, then go ahead and wear your mask. If you feel you need to wear gloves, then go ahead and wear your gloves. But please don't touch anything else once you touch the things those gloves because you're just spreading shit around.
It's
but
funny. It's funny because I saw my mom a couple days ago for Memorial Day, and she was telling me how she found that a lot of women in restrooms do not wash their hands. Uh, I told her that I mean, this is just my personal experience, but in the last few years, I feel like I see more and more guys actually taking the time to wash their hands, like at the gym and stuff like that, you know,
yeah,
then go out, So it was funny to me to hear that she was saying that women, because I always assumed that like women especially would be very,
no, I
I
know plenty of women
all
who are
that
pretty
stuff,
gross.
But she was like, no, she's like, women are terrible. She was like, women
Yeah.
never wash their hands. And I was like, I'm like, I'm not just saying this. I'm like, I honestly have noticed that like it's only been recently. It's only been maybe in the last 2 or 3 years or so. But I have noticed that a lot more guys are very conscious about it and stuff. And it makes you feel guilty enough to make sure that you wash your hands when you leave your
I mean, I
bathroom.
don't give a shit. Yeah, I would jump over a bitch because everybody else is doing it. So I mean, if I don't feel like washing my hands, I won't. But no, I mean, I'm not like gross and disgusting. Like, yeah, when I go to the gym after I'm done working out, I wash my hands. Because I'm like, yeah, I've been touching everything. I'm like,
Right.
again, no matter what, we've
Or
always
if
been
I'm
trying to
about to go
avoid
out
getting
and start
sick.
touching all the weights, I'll make sure I wash my hands. It's like,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But
I'm not gonna wipe my ass and then just walk out like, cool. Now I'm gonna go grab all the weights, and just give everybody pink eye.
yeah.
Um, but no, that's what that's like the whole thing. I'm like, we've always, as a human like species, like tried our best to avoid getting sick. No one wants to get sick. Never have I left my house being like, oh boy, I'm gonna go out there and make sure I get sick today. So I'm like, why do we need to change all these things so drastically and seemingly so unnecessarily? Yeah.
So if you had your way, how would you see this thing kind of playing itself throughout the rest of 2021?
It shouldn't be a thing. It shouldn't have any effect in 2021 because we should. I mean, it should get to a point where it can be like, okay, like yeah, it's a virus, it exists, it's in there with flu season. Try not to get sick. If you
Do you think
do,
do you think you being a father especially, do you think students should be able to go back to school in the fall?
um, yeah, I mean, because they're kids, so they were gonna if they're gonna get sick, they're gonna get sick anyway. I'm not saying I want them to get this, but I'm like honestly, there's no avoiding it. Not like I can't like just completely cut it out of my life. I'm gonna go
Right.
out there. I'm gonna live my life. I might get sick. I might get a cold. I might get the flu. I might get corona. Or COVID-19. Like, you know what I mean? It's a thing of like, yeah, that's always gonna be out there. I'm not going out there and just licking the shelves at the store. I'm not trying to get it, but
Sure.
I mean, the best I can hope for is that if I do get it, my immune system does what it's designed to do, makes antibodies, and now I'm cool. I can fight it off. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's very that's the thing. I'm like, everybody's ignoring the data and the science about this virus. Like, why are people still so afraid when I'm like, it's been proven now, even the mortality rate has even dropped even more now. Like, according to the people y'all keep listening to, y'all want to listen to the WHO and the CDC and the media. Well, they're telling you that there's like a 99% survival rate now.
Well, that's one of the things that you do on a daily basis. I've noticed is that you always promote the number of
People that recover.
survivors.
Yeah.
So you make a point of pointing out how many people have survived this versus how many have not.
Yeah.
And so what have your findings been? Are there more survivors than not to this whole thing?
Yeah, absolutely. There's always been. It's always been more survivable than not. Like, it's like if you have underlying issues, age plays a factor. Like, there's a bunch of things that play a factor on which side you're probably
But
gonna
you
fall
can
on.
say that about like a million other
And
different things.
exactly, I'm gonna say that about anything. I can get a really bad cold, and if I have my system allows it, I can get pneumonia. You know what I mean?
Right. Sure.
It can go bad for anybody. Every single virus has the ability to kill. It's always
So
been that way.
so let me ask you this then. Okay, so if people are being preyed upon their sensitivities by this virus in that way that you just described, who is to benefit by scaring the public in this way?
Well, depends on who's doing the scaring. Is it the media doing all the scaring? Are they the one, like, who's pushing the fear? And like, you gotta look at stuff like that. If this became nonstop talk about this virus, like, in the press, by the politicians, and that say it started to become a platform for them to get ahead in the election, because they start being like, oh, I'm gonna dedicate all my, if I'm elected, I'll dedicate everything into getting rid of COVID-19 and making vaccines with COVID-19. So like, why did it become a political platform? If you guys were, our government truly didn't fucking suck, shouldn't a pandemic been the moment where they're like, okay, what do we need to do to solve this? Both sides. Like, why are
Sure.
you trying to fucking win at
Right.
COVID-19? It's become a game of, well, who can win at COVID-19? Who can do a better
Right.
job at getting rid of it? Like, shouldn't you guys be
Would
working
hope
together?
the two sides would unite. It's like GI Joe and Cobra, like uniting against drugs. It's
Put it
like
this way: if everybody's
it's like
fucking dead, then
you
who
would
are
think
you
of
gonna be a
nothing
government
else.
for?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you think of nothing else, they would come together on this and say, okay, let's put our differences aside. The good guys, the bad guys, whoever
yeah,
you
we
consider
have to fix
to
this.
be,
Yeah,
we're going to take care of this together because we have to unite. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because if everybody fucking dies, then we have no parties. We have no
Right.
support. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I say, just based off of how it's been handled right away, was like, okay, right, I wouldn't say I didn't believe the virus existed, but right away I was like, okay, I don't think it's as big as of a threat as they keep saying. Because like, it immediately got turned into fucking political points. Where I'm like, it
My
doesn't make sense to me.
my whole thing with this has been like right from the get-go when I saw like the run on paper towels and toilet paper and disinfectant wipes and all that sort of stuff.
Mhm.
My initial reaction was like, holy shit. I'm like, if this is how we react to something that is basically an accelerated flu,
Mhm.
what would happen if like this was something where like
Well,
your
this was the
face
fucking plague.
your
Yeah,
belts off of your
yeah,
skull or something
yeah.
like
We be
that.
we be shooting each other. Well, I
Like
mean, they are shooting each other in the
you're right.
streets.
You just turn into liquid or something like that. Like,
Right?
what the fuck would everybody do? Because relatively speaking, and I'm not trying to make light of it, but
No, no.
relatively speaking, this ain't that bad as far as pandemics go. It's
Yeah,
like you could
yeah,
do a lot worse as far as pandemics
yeah.
go. But what the fuck would we do if like your face melted off of your skull if you got this shit? I mean,
I
like,
mean,
then
if
what would
this
we
was the
do? Because
Spanish
we're
flu,
already
right?
in each other's throats right now over
Right.
fucking toilet paper.
Yeah,
So it's like
yeah.
it's like
No, like
it
I'm saying, like,
makes
if people
sense.
want to keep talking about the Spanish flu epidemic, they keep bringing that up. That people try to argue about how we should take this serious. I'm like, the Spanish flu, when you got it, it was a death sentence, pretty much. Like,
Yeah, it
got it,
was
you
a
were
whole
fucking going
different
to
thing. It
die.
was a whole
Yeah,
different thing.
yeah. So I'm like, you want to take that and compare it to a thing that At the time, at least 97% of people who got it were recovering. And now that
Right.
number's only gone up. So I'm like, how can you sit there and compare the two? And why are you afraid of something? Man, let me tell you, if I do anything and they say you have a 97% chance of success, I'm all about it. I'm ecstatic.
Right.
Let's go. You don't have to convince me. 97, you know what I mean? So I'm like, what is the world coming to now when it's that easy to just be like, well, fuck anybody who doesn't believe this, and now we're at war with each other. It's so stupid. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, like if I was shitting out my mouth if I got this sort of
Yeah.
thing, I'm like,
Yeah.
then yeah, I'd be a lot more worried about it. But I mean,
And
like, when
before
you look at the
and before people even say it,
consequences,
it's
yeah,
going to
yeah,
get into the well, the people, the families who lost people will say differently. And I hate that argument because everyone has experienced loss. I mean, if you haven't, you will. Everyone's going to experience death in their family, in their
sure,
friends, and life. So I'm like, I've had people that I love die. And I'm like, I'm not making light of anybody who's died from COVID
right,
19. I'm like,
neither am
it's
I,
sad.
yeah, sure.
Yeah, but I understand reality in the real world, and I know that we can't stop living because of the dead. And that makes no sense. Then aren't we just wasting life? You know what I mean? Like I'm like, life is for the living. We have to keep living. You want me to stop living because people have died? But I'm like, there's more people that have recovered from this. So why are we ignoring that? Why are we ignoring that you have a more than high chance of surviving if you were to get COVID 19? It's not like if you walk outside, you're guaranteed to get it. That's not how this works. So it's if you get it, you're more than likely to survive, barring underlying issues and other stuff like that. You know, which I'm like, why isn't our country promoting better health? Why are we still the fattest fucking country in the world? Yeah,
At least
yeah,
that's a whole nother story about different
yeah,
issues that we got in our
yeah,
country. Sure, absolutely.
yeah.
But no, I think you've made very good points this evening, and I appreciate you coming on the show, my friend.
For
Uh,
having,
it's been a pleasure as always. You and I can always shoot the shit. I mean, we could probably go another 4 hours,
yeah,
probably. Just
I'm sure we could do more talks about these,
go
about this in general.
back and forth here. But um, I always like to end the show with two questions, though. Well, number one, I want to ask you if you had to say if there's any sort of silver lining, if there's anything good that has come of this whole thing, what would you say that is?
Um, I think more people are starting to wake up just to the all the bullshit out there. So that's been a good thing because now those who are willing to actually see what they're seeing with their own eyes are seeing the flip-flopping and the inconsistencies and how things don't add up. And a lot of times how the government isn't gonna fucking save you, you know?
Right,
Even if I'm a part of this party and I vote for them and they're in the White House or whatnot have you, that doesn't mean anything for my life. I still have to go out there and change my own life. So I think people are starting to wake up to that and stop. A lot of people are waking up to like not being so dependent on the government because they can't fucking save you, um, and they shouldn't have to. Like they should work with us, not for not on. We shouldn't be, you know what I mean. They don't own us. We're supposed to all be together in this. Yeah.
right.
I sound like Joe Biden now. I'm just all
No,
you
no.
know the thing. Yeah.
The other question, and I should have asked this the other way around, but the other question is, what would you say has been the most difficult part of this whole thing for you?
um. I mean, not so much the isolation because I can fucking be alone. Like that's not a problem for me to an extent. Just the lack of losing all things, like not having things to do and go to, like having my routine. Like I had my routine set up, and that is completely disrupted, and that's disrupting to me, like mentally,
Right.
and emotionally sometimes. So like it gets hard, but mainly I hate the way society just is eating itself right now.
Yeah.
Like none of it makes any sense, and it's everybody arguing, but essentially arguing for the same thing, but looking at it two different ways on how to get to that same goal. We all want to live, we all want to be happy in this world, but people are arguing about what's the right thing to do to get there, and there is no argument to be had because everyone's different. You know what I mean?
Personal question, one that I'm just curious of. What have you been doing to like keep in shape during this time?
Nothing. Getting fat. I was working out. I was working out with Angel in his garage, but the at home workouts don't work for me. Like I
Yeah.
have to be at a gym.
Yeah.
Like that's where I get like that's where I mentally zone in. That's when I work out. Like I've tried doing home workouts. It lasts for a little bit, but I just mentally can't get into it.
No,
Like
I agree. There's something about being in those four walls, man. You know,
yeah,
it's being in that place, it's being in the clubhouse, it's being in your space where you get to work out. That's where you associate working out. That's where you focus the best. I mean, like I totally get that whole thing.
yeah.
So
As far as
I
exercise or working out goes, yeah, I haven't been doing much of it. So it's gonna have to be hitting the reset button for me once I'm able to get back to going to the gym and training and stuff like that. I'm gonna be kind of reconditioning my body.
being in as deep as you are in the pro wrestling scene in Chicago, do you have any sort of temperature as to when shows might get started back up again around here?
I mean, we never know because we can't get a straight answer. Every
Yeah.
time they, every time something gets extended, it's always left open ended on when it's going to end. So I don't know about getting back to shows like we've been talking about, looking through the new guidelines for opening up for things opening up now to see if we fall into that, if we can kind of slowly start getting things going, have the small classes. So we're in talks about it, but yeah, as of an actual start date, we don't know because we don't know when we're gonna be allowed to without being hassled, without
I
having
I know in
people
Florida, I know in
outside.
Florida they're starting to work try to get some shows in like late July, early August going,
Yeah,
but at the same time, it's like you said, it's they will always tell you like, well, we're good until up into this point, and then we're gonna open up again. And then like 2 weeks before that, they say, no, we decided we're gonna push it back
yep,
even further.
yeah.
And so you can never
Well,
rely. And for me,
anytime people know that people go outside and all of a sudden they're like, oh, the number is spiked. I'm like, they just keep saying that. Like, I'm
right.
like, who are all these spike cases? How these people are getting sick overnight and just instantly going to critical condition? Yeah,
For
and
me,
like it's just
I never take any date that they give. I don't pay any attention
yeah,
to it.
exactly.
I mean,
Yeah,
there's no point. It's like they can change it. If they can change it, then it means nothing to me at all.
yeah,
So I don't care.
yeah,
I'll find
yeah.
out. You know, like
Yeah, we can get there and they decide no. What's the
whenever
point?
they finally say, "Okay, you can go," we'll go. But um, well, I hope that it comes sooner than later for you, my friend. I want you.
We'll just see. Here's the thing I want us to remember, and now we have a recording of it. I want to
Yeah.
see if all this fucking shit disappears after November. Like I want
Yeah.
to see if there's any talk about it, any fear about it, if it comes back next year, if it comes back in the next three years. You know what I mean? Like I want to see how quick this disappears after the election's over.
So you think that this whole thing is a very election-driven mobile?
Yes, I mean, the virus exists. The virus is real. I'm not denying that. People have gotten it. I've known people who have gotten it, but they've recovered, which most people do.
Yeah.
But all the talk about it and how it's just dominating everything and shit's being shut down, lives are being ruined because of this. I want to see how quickly that just disappears after the election.
Okay.
How I want to see how the media stops pushing it, how the politicians stop talking about it, all these things. I want to see if it honestly became just a political vehicle. That's what it seems like.
Well, we'll find out, and we'll have this recording as evidence that this
Yeah.
guy may have possibly called it. So, and then we'll have you back on again to give the
And 4 more years when they do it all over again.
old "I told you so." You know.
Yeah. I
Well,
mean,
hey,
every 4 years, there's been a lot of on people don't notice that every 4 years, it's always some crazy shit before the election. Yeah,
you know, you're right, and
yeah.
I agree. I agree with that 100%. There always is, but this is definitely the
This is the
craziest
craziest. Yeah,
in my
2020
lifetime.
has been fucking
So
insane. So
I'm a little older than you, so I gotta imagine this is the craziest you've probably seen too. So,
yeah.
uh, but well, hey man, you know, always a pleasure to see you, man. I miss you so much. I always do. We can never spend enough time together, and I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your thoughts and opinions with everybody on it. And I hope that people will check it out and listen to you and understand that your intentions are nothing but genuine and honorable, and you mean the best for everybody out there. You
Everybody
know,
will be happy.
as do I. So. I love you, buddy. I hope things get better soon. I hope you're able to get back to training, and I hope you're able to get back to getting in the ring, man, because you're one of the best, and I love you, bro.
I
So,
love you too, man.
all right, buddy. You
All right,
take it
brother.
easy. Thanks for joining us tonight, and we'll talk to you. What I would like to do, as I before I close out, I always like to tell people at the end of the show that at some point when we get on the other end of this, which we will one at some point or another, I do want to come back and check back in with somebody and then see how things went from our interview up until that point. So
I
you and
like
I
that.
you and I will talk again to kind of do a recap and see how things went from now until some point in the future where we feel like we're on the other end.
Sounds good. If we make it to the other end,
If we
if the world doesn't, if the
if
world
it
doesn't end by
happens, you'll hear from me. All right, buddy.
then.
All right, man. Peace out. I love you.
Love
Take care, bro. I will take
you,
care.
brother. All right,
All
man.
Okay, so that's my interview with Bryce Benjamin, aka Jesus Bryce. As you can see, he's got a lot of opinions on not only just the pandemic in general, but the socio-economical impact on our society with it, how it's affecting him, how it's affecting the professional wrestling business, and so on and so forth. Again, one of my favorite people, love him to death, and I really hope that things can get back to normal sooner than later. Right now, I've been working with a girl who has been, she's training with me in the sense that she is getting ready for the conditioning that it takes to be able to go through pro wrestling school. We've worked on basic holds and things like that, talk psychology, worked through some matches, watched some matches on TV, and kind of dissected them and so forth and everything. But I am not her trainer. I would never presume or assume to be her trainer. I'm just sort of getting her in the mindset and physical mindset of getting ready for what she's going to go through when she finally gets there. But I've told her since day one that the person she needs to train with is Bryce. And again, he won't be the first person she trains with because Bryce deals more with the intermediate type level of people. But I know that she can break through that first level to get to him, and so on and so forth. So I'm excited to see how things go when she finally does get hooked up with him and everything. But thank you, Bryce, for being on, and I appreciate it. And there's still more guests to come. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in and watching. And I hope everybody's doing safe. It seems like it's starting to come out the other end of this whole thing. It's hard to say, you know. I know there's a lot of people who are worried about there being a second wind of this whole thing, and you know, that's just kind of a wait and see situation. But for now, high hopes, and we're looking forward to possibly getting back to normal, at least as what we understand as normal, very soon. So, thank you again to everybody who watched this evening or today, whatever it is, and I will see you soon. My love and blessings to everybody. I hope that you're safe and well. And until next time, as always, peace and love.